In the past, we learned that it's possible to create a variable that can contains multiple variables inside, multiple elements, and the way to do that is to use the square brackets. Square brackets means array. In this example, we declared a variable called cities of type string array, and it's equal new. New means that we are telling the program to reserve a place in memory for this array, to secure a place in memory for this array, and only for 2 elements of type string. After this line, now we can assign it a value. In this line, we assign a value to the first element, and in this line, we assign a value to the second element. But what if later in the program, suddenly we understand that we need to add another element, a third one? Orlando also is needed. Now we have a problem, because this variable, it can contain only 2 variables inside. So what can we do? We don't have a choice. We have to create a new variable of type string. This time to declare that this variable is supposed to contain 3 elements, and to transfer the data from the first array to the second array, and from the second element of the first array to the second array, and then to assign value to the third element in the second array. But this is, of course, not recommended. It's not. We have a better way. The better way is that we can create a variable not of type string array, but it's of type of list of string. Of course, this is a very good collection. Cities of type string array, it's very good collection. It's used all the time. But this one is a little bit better. The way to declare this list is very simple. Of course, we have a name, list of cities. We can choose any name we want, but the type is not list. This is not a string array as we declared before. Now we write the word list, and then opening and closing angle brackets, and inside, in between the angle brackets, is the type that we want, the one that this list will be able to contain, the type of variable that we want this list to contain. In this case, we want a list of string. And the name of the variable is list of cities. Of course, also here we are supposed to write equals new. New tells the program that we want to reserve to secure a place in memory for this variable. After this line, list of string, the name equals new list of string. And of course, also this is needed. I'm not going to explain now why these the opening and closing round brackets is needed, but it's also needed. So don't forget these brackets, even though we did not explain it yet why it's needed. After this line, now we have a variable ready to add into it a values. The way to add values to this variable is very simple. See, at the second we created this variable, behind the scene, the program adds a lot of things to this object, to this collection. One of them, if we will just type dot after this this variable name, this variable, we'll see a lot of options. One of them is add. Add is actually a method that lets us add a value to this collection, to this variable. We are using the add method, opening and closing round brackets, and the value that we want to add to this collection, to this list of string. So here in this line, we add New York to this collection. In this line, we add another element to this collection, New Jersey. And in this line, we add another element to this collection, Orlando. The difference between a list of string and string array, that in string array or int array, we must tell the program at first, when we build this variable, to tell the program how many elements we want this variable to be able to contain. But in list of string or list of int or list of anything, any other type, we do not need to do that. We just create the variable of type, for example, list of string, and now we can add more and more and more how many that we want. No problem. If we want to add more, we can add more. And the way to iterate through the elements inside this variable, inside this variable type list of string, or list of int, or list of anything, the type is exactly as we, the way to iterate is exactly as the way that we are iterating through the variable, the elements inside string array. For each var item in list of cities, and in every iteration, item will take the next element inside. In the first iteration, the item will be equal to New York, the first element, and in the next iteration, item will be equal to New Jersey, and the next iteration, the third iteration, item will be equal to Orlando. And if there is more, of course, it will go to the end of the collection. We can also iterate through this list of string using for loop, not only for each, using for loop. The way to iterate is exactly as we do with string array. We can approach every element using an index, like we did in string array. Int I equals 0 as long as I less than the list of cities that count. This is a little bit different than cities array, because cities array, it has a property called length, if you remember. I hope you remember. It's called length that tells us the length of the array. In a list, we don't have the length property. Instead, we have a property called count. The property called count tells us the length of the list. So in this second part, we are evaluating while I is still less than the count of the list. Then continue to iterate through this list of array, a list of string, and we can approach, of course, the element using the square brackets as we did in the string array, using string brackets and the index number that tells us that now we want to print the I means the first array, 0. And then in the next iteration, now we want to print the 1 means the second element inside this list. Exactly the same is with list of int. This time we want to create a list of grades. The way to create it is to use the word list again, and opening and closing angle brackets, And between the type, this time the type we want is type of int. So it's called list of int. The name is list of grades, and equals new list of int means that we want the program to reserve, to secure a place in memory for this list. And of course, do not forget the opening and closing round brackets, even though we did not explain yet why we need it for, but don't forget them. And the way to add values or elements to this list is very simple. This object, this collection, list of grades, it has inside a method called add. We just need to type dot, and then we can see it. Here is the first method, add, and opening and closing round brackets, and the value that we want to add to this list, and the second element, and the third element, and to iterate through this collection list. We can do it with for each or with for, exactly the same exactly the same as list of string that we saw here before.